friend, and welcome back to this special episode that I really want to put this together sincerely. As you may know, this is the follow-up. And nearly a year ago, I did a special episode about the Super Nintendo and how much I love the system. It is my first console I got. Well, kinda, because it came alongside with another one, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. I mentioned in the video that the Super Nintendo changed me the gaming experience, and that was after I got the PC, of course. That was after I got the Wolfenstein. So, and I got the Junior you see behind me, and with a copy of Super Metroid as a result. If you haven't seen the episode, I would suggest to click out the notification you see up here and watch the video. And it's a little detail, of course, and you're gonna have a blast with the video as a result. But that's what we're not gonna talk about today. Today I'm gonna talk about is this good old guy, which is my second favorite console, the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES for short. So this is the console that you see right here. This is the console you see, as you can tell. And for example, you got the cartridge goes right here, and the composite, RF, and we'll know what the hell is for, because who knows what Nintendo was intended with this thing, anyway. And it was a special console certainly, because after I got the SNES Junior, the one you see behind me, my family, they thought, this little kid needs something that is more emphasis on his age, so they gave me this alongside with the SNES, sorry. So they gave me this with the Junior, and I was really happy sincerely. And yeah, this one is a 1988 model, which is one of the later ones sincerely. And most of my friends has this particular model. Some they had the Great Edition, which is the early model, the 1985 model, and some they had the very rare and very sought after top loader version, which is the 1993 version. They put the cartridge on top. That's the NES2 or NES 101, or the top loader as we know, and this one they known as the toaster as a result. And it is what an admirable piece of technology. Plus, it's one of my favorite console, my second favorite console, right behind the Super Nintendo. And I have a lot of memory with this console sincerely. Playing Super Mario Bros. 3, Metroid, and of course one of my personal favorites, Street Fighter 2010, which I talk about briefly in one of my videos. So anyways, I'm gonna give this console a look. So why I particularly love this console so much? Well, it was during Christmas when I got the Super Nintendo. I saw another box. I mentioned before that in the Super Nintendo video that I got the Super Nintendo with another console, which I didn't tell them what it is. It was this console, the NES. So I got it in a big box. So I came with a system and a copy of Super Mario Bros. 3. Yes, the third one. So I got the game as a result. Alongside I got with Metroid and Street Fighter 2010, and it was a blast to play. And it was really amazing. I put the game into the push it down, close, and power on, and simple as that. And it's quite impressive. And by the way, so this is another thing that the NES was unique. You put the game in and you push it down like a VCR, like a VHS player. But the trouble with this mechanism is that Nintendo, the reason they put this design is, as you may know in the store, most of the history developed, the NES actually saved the video game industry, because Atari and the other companies, they tried to put the games, too many of them, and most people lost their confidence in the video game because there's so many bad games. And of course, you had the port of Pac-Man of the Atari, which infinitely gonna be horrible, and then you had the so-called infamous ET, which ruins the reputation of Atari, and they got bankrupt. Well, they laid off some of their employees, they dumped the games into the New Mexico in a hole, which it was discovered years later, and Atari got bankrupt. It was dead, and they divided into pieces. Atari Games and Atari Corporation, which was bought by Jack Tramiel, and Atari Games was bought by Namco and part of Warner Bros. So, and as a result, Atari was pretty much toast, dead. And Nintendo, in fact, Nintendo, they even tried to license the Famicom. Well, it's called, for most people thinking Famicom, well, it's Nintendo Family Computer / Famicom. That's the Japanese equivalent of the NES. They tried to license the Famicom or Family Computer to Atari, but the negotiation was in the hole. The negotiation was scrapped because Atari thought about the Nintendo was treason because of Coleco. But unfortunately, Atari, they shouldn't do it. Unfortunately, because of their arrogancy, they lost it, and plus bankrupt. And as a result, in Nintendo, they had to do it by themselves, and they did. Originally, it was a computer because at the time, North America was not even interested in consoles. They wanted computers such as Commodore 64, Apple IIc, IBM PC, and so on in North America. So they tried to just, because parents were like, why a dedicated console they can learn on a computer? Well, that's how it is. Until Nintendo was like, no, we have to do this. And they did. And they succeed. Well, kinda, because when they brought the NES, people were like, yada yada. They were skeptical because they came with the first models, the 1985 models. They came with ROB, which is ROB stands for Robot Operational Buddy, which is the little toy that came with the NES with the game Jaromai and Stack Up. Well, those are the games that we come with. People were skeptical, and I recommend to watch Gaming Historian video. He mentions about ROB, the robot. Links down below, or you click the notification up here if you're interested. Anyhow, so they tried to, and they were successful. Took a while though. First they sold in New York, then in Chicago, and then in Los Angeles, and so on to the rest of North America. And by 1988, you play Nintendo, not just a console, because it was not just for the console and that's it. No, you play Nintendo. That's the trade is. The idea is Nintendo says, Nintendo, just an entertainment system, not a console. That's why they designed this DCR stuff. But unfortunately, in retrospect, many NESs, well, the 7-2 pin adapter, the one inside, over time the pins get bent and bent and bent to become unreliable and they become loose. You can bend them back, but it's very delicate, and most of the time they're not doing it right. And sometimes they get filthy, but it's easy to just grab one of those one-up cards or those clean kit. You know, you can put alcohol or some solvent that is cleanable. I recommend just isopropyl alcohol to do it, and you clean the pins, and they work fine. But again, they get bent over time. You have to replace it eventually. There's the it's all called what's it called? The blinking light win. You can essentially put the NES to make it reliable without using the pushing. Some people prefer the original, but that's your preference as a result. And in many cases, the NES is one of the consoles that, if I had one of these for cheap, and it still work, even if they look garbled or destroyed, they're still usable. This console is the ultimate warrior. This console lasts much longer than others, and it still works like a champ. So I'm gonna talk about the controllers, the collection, and the console a little more forward. I'll put the camera in my bench and show the console for you. So let's keep going. Okay, here we're in the bench, and this is the console right here. Sure, it's not perfect because it has a bit of yellow, and you see yellow in here, and a bit here. The only part that is not yellow is the top. So I apologize since I haven't returned the assistance, and because the place I've been living in is just so wet, and by the way, it's raining, of course, by the recording of the video. So I apologize if doesn't look pristine as my Junior, which is all white. Anyway, this is the system. You have the reset button and the power button. The cartridge goes inside. You push it down and made a contact. But I mentioned before the 7-2 pin adapter. You see right here. I will push it a little bit. You can tell here's the pin, as you can see there. That's the main one. The design for is simple. When the pins they get bent or just oxidized, they lose connectivity and sometimes they lose glitch, which is quite understandable. So this is one of the consoles that includes AV output, as you can tell here. And this is the NES. The NES, unlike the Super Nintendo, the NES it's mono. Yes, mono. Only one channel audio. So you have the video in the mono output. Also, you have the RF adapter, which nobody, unless you have the TV to use it. But today and age, nobody uses RF anymore. Only the older TVs they use RF. Channel 3 and 4 on the switch. The power supply, AC adapter. And the bottom, you can see the warranty stickers and all, and the whole services, the ID number, the age was in it, and of course, and yes, this already broke as a result, but we don't know what is for it, but at least I put the cover to protect the thingamajig in it, so it stays as a result. Anyhow, so that's how the system is. So as a result, and mine still works. Obviously yellow because I use it a lot as a result, but it still works. But the reason this console's success is because of the snes chip, which is inside of the system. The snes chip was what it does is an but you put the card, for example, let's say Mario 3, you put the card in and finish, you push it down. Well, I didn't push it, but just a demonstration. You put it down and find the chip. What it does is detect if the card is there. But the problem with the snes chip is, well, in the past it was really useful because they prevent piracy and unauthorized games. But the trouble with the snes chip is that what the new chip was like is like this. It resets the console over and over again, and that's annoying. And you want to know the console works. Thankfully, you can disable the snes chip by snapping the pin number 4, the snes chip. As a result, you can have a region free NES, plus more reliable. Some people don't like that idea, but really, the NES needs some more support as a result, in my opinion. But obviously, the top loader doesn't have the snes chip. It was removed, making the console region free. But you can do it the same original by just nipping the pin number 4 on the snes chip, or just remove the entire chip, and the console works fine. As a result, it was easy to do it in set. Oh, if you want to know about more of the snes chip in the documentation, and of course the infamous battle against Tengen, which is the subsidiary of Atari games, check out the video of Gaming Historian, or the video of Modern Vintage Gamer. They talk about the cap protection of the NES. So I recommend to check out those videos. Up there, the links are down below in the description, or the card you see up there. I will put both in the same spot so you can see it. So anyhow, I'm gonna talk about the games, but first I'll show the controls. Here's the controls right here, and sorry for the mess of wires. It's not because I use this control for my needs, of course. This is the controller. Not bad. It's okay, of course. Let me put the camera. Looks a little blurry. Here it is. This is the classic NES system. A lot of people said that while using the control, it digs on your hand and some nonsense stuff. Those are pure BS, in my opinion. But if you want to really have comfy hands, I recommend the dog bone controller. If you have soft and delicate hands, use the dog bone controller, which has a nice curves. I don't have those. And second, I don't really need it because I always prefer the square one. And a lot of people was like, why not use it? It's just, what? Why don't I use a when I use a dog bone? But for me, it's not necessary. I really prefer the square one, and it perfectly fits in my hands, in my opinion. And I can use it very well. And of course, those matching games such as track and field, which match the buttons, of course, and it's practically the control that really defines it. Plus the D-pad. The D-pad was invented by Junpei Yokoi. He made it for the Donkey Kong Game & Watch series. So he invented a marvel in the video game history. With a cross-pad or D-pad, you can control your character, for example, and the buttons are really important. For example, B run, A jumps in the Mario game, or B attacks, A jump. That's natural. That's how we grew up on the NES. It's just natural. And also you have the second controller, of course, and it's simply a marble fin, and it's just a simple concept to me, because who else gonna find it? Obviously the Super Nintendo is a lot better because it used the concave design, but the NES is what represents how the game is controlled, how the game is presented. The other thing about most games, sometimes they put the games on backwards, which is really annoying, because, for example, any NES game you can obviously, as I mentioned before, B runs and A jumps. Well, some games are swapped right backwards. B jump and A backward. It's just unnatural for most. But you can use it, but it's a muscle memory to remember the button, which is really annoying necessarily. And now, let's talk about the games real quick. Okay, here's some of the games. I'll talk about the big three that I started it, as you can see. I'll start with these three. But why these three, you ask? Well, this is very important, because that's how I received it. When I got my NES, I got with this game, the packing game. I got with Super Mario Bros. 3, that's the packing game that I got. But they also gave me two games, these two. The original Metroid, and of course the very underrated Street Fighter 2010, which is nothing to do with Street Fighter, it's just its own unique style game. It's just Capcom trying to put a name that doesn't fit very well and made it not successful. But it's a great game, I recommend it. I'll start with this one. This is the one I'm gonna start. So why this one, you ask, and why not the Mario? Well, when I received the game, two things I'm gonna say. One, at the time I didn't have Street Fighter 2. That was much later. Second, the title itself got intrigued me, because I was like, why Street Fighter and why this Final Fight? Because you know, Street Fighter was a fighting game, and if you look closer, let me put the focus a little bit. Final Fight is the beat 'em up. But then you see this 2010. After online, I discovered that this game is called 2010. That's the name. The name in the Japanese game is 2010. That's the name they gave it Capcom at the time, which is weird and out of place. When you put this game, it's a side-scroller game. You have to defeat each boss to pass the next portal, and so on. You play as, well, in the American version you play as Ken, Master of the Future, but in the Japanese version you play as a mighty scientist called Kevin Stryker, which is this guy right here with the sunglasses, which reminds me of Duke Nukem or perhaps Captain Commando and such as like. And you play against some bosses, and the final boss is Tori in the Japanese version and Ryu in the American version, which is crazy. It's a twist. If you have played this game, I highly recommend to check it. I didn't review this game. I decided to do a special video of this video, but though for another future or so. I might review this game, but in the next other occasions. So anyhow, okay, I'm gonna mention Metroid real quick. So Metroid. As I mentioned before, Metroid, this is the original Metroid, the one that first started it with in the franchise. As a kid, I want to know things. I want to know, who is this guy behind it? Well, because when I got the game, I asked my dad, who is this guy behind it? Because I was like, in the first game you play as Kevin Stryker, it was a man, but I want to know who is this. And second, when I watched the movie Alien, yes, the Ridley Scott movie, and I discovered that it was inspiration from that movie. So I played it again. I started with the map, obviously, but then I played without the map. Analyze myself what it is. Some people draw a map. Me, I didn't do none of that. I was just memorize what the idea is. And a lot of people were like, I'm kind of crazy. That's because I was a hardcore crazy guy on this arena, and still I am to this day. I play this game all the time with no map. That's how I am, and I play this game like crazy, non-stop. And some might disagree with me, but that's how I am. I'm crazy with this game.
beat it again in like, obviously I'm not a speedrun, of course. I used to be, but not these days. But I beat it again quick enough, and I discovered that this dude is a woman. And then I found out online, but it was years later, and then I compared with Super Metroid. I discovered that this woman is the mightiest bounty hunter in the universe. Her name is Samus Aran. Yes, Samus Aran, the mightiest bounty hunter in the universe. And she was raided by the Chozos. And as a result, I start. And this is the game that really wanted to investigate. As a result, I was able to find out the story behind Metroid. And with this game, and Super Metroid solidified me as a Metroid fan. And as a result, I was able to play all the Metroid games and analyze the story behind it. By the way, I did review this game like nearly 2 years ago. If you haven't seen it, check out the link that I put in the description, or the notification you see in the card. You can see it. Warning of the video that is old. The video is nearly 2 years old. As a result, it looks pretty outdated, but if you're interested, check that out. I did review this game already. And finally, the cream of the pie, Super Mario Bros. 3. That was a packing game. I got it in the system because in my Super Nintendo, I didn't get Mario World, because I instead got Donkey Kong. But in the NES, I was able to get the Mario games, especially the third one. So why the third one over the other two ones, he said? Well, it was an amazing fun game, as I said. It still is to this day. I played this game the heck out of it with my cousin Jonathan in the old days, trying to get who's get the farthest without warp and without getting cheats anyway. So, and I played the heck out of it sincerely. It's just a really fun game, and I really enjoyed this game for what it is. And it's still my favorite Mario game to this day. By the way, I made a video about this game and couple months ago, if I remember. Again, the link is down below if you check it out. So in fact, I reviewed these, but this one I didn't. So I might review this one in the future, but that's another time. So anyways, let's put these aside and put the other games that I had in my collection. You may notice I'm missing some of the games, but that's because I tried to find all of them. But here's some of them I will find out in this video. I'll start with this first block. First, Life Force. Why Life Force? Well, Life Force is Salamandre. Yes, Salamandre. Salamandre is the spin-off of the Gradius series. You play as the Big Viper and the Salamandre Legacy. Obviously, this is the NES version, but in my opinion, the PC Engine or the TurboGrafx version is the superior version of this one. But if you want to play it on the NES, you can play on the NES version. There's a bit of differences in the Japanese and the North American version. In the Japanese version, the title pops up and says Salamandre. In the American version, it's more like a static menu, in my opinion. As a result, plus it's a little different in the option menu. As a result, there's a bit difference in the game. Like I mentioned before, if you want to play Life Force, check out the game. It's just an amazing. It is ridiculously hard, but there's the Konami code, which I almost forgot. You mean, how do you do the Konami code? Bro, that's really easy. All you have to do is up, up, down, down, left, right, BA. And that's it. The code's on everywhere, so you don't have to find on it online. It's everywhere. So this game is one of those that use the Konami code, but it's not even the first. The first game that used the Konami code is, you guessed it, Gradius, and Contra was making it popular. So it's no stranger, it's by Konami. So if you haven't played Life Force, go check it out. But if you want a good port, the PC Engine is the way to go. If you want it, if you mind asking. The next game is Zelda 2, Links of Internet. Sadly, my card has suffered from being unfortunate. It has some marks and I was not able to remove it. I used to have my old copy of Zelda 2, but I no longer have it anymore. As a result, I have to buy another one. As a result, and it's just annoying. Anyways, so Zelda 2. This game, I loved it so much. For me, It is my favorite Zelda game. I know some people are gonna say, no, Zelda Ocarina is better. No, Link's better. Come on, my friend. I know you like. I know Ocarina and Link to the Past are better than this one, but in my opinion, disclaimer, I'm gonna put a beautiful, shiny article in front of the screen. In my opinion, this is my favorite game. I enjoyed this game the heck out of it as a kid. And I know it's hard and I know it's ridiculously brutal, but I don't care any of that. I enjoy this game for what it is, and I defended the game quite a lot. And it's just an amazing marble piece. And again, some people are gonna flag and hate this game because of the difficulty and some people it's not Zelda. It is Zelda in my opinion. If you don't like my opinions, you can go straight to hell. And as a result, it's just an amazing game to say, and a very, if not the most underrated game, alongside with Majora's Mask, which is my second favorite Zelda game. Well, that's Zelda 2 in a nutshell, my friend. So, something like that. So, we'll went on to the next game. This is the next game I'm gonna talk about. The TMNT 3 Manhattan Project. This game was made by Konami. Konami made, and they got the license for the Turtles. Obviously, you see the arcade version, which is the most people remember, and then you have the original Turtles on the NES, which a lot of people don't like. I do like that game. And then you have the second, which is the arcade port, and this is the one most people do not talk about, or most people forgot about it. That's the Manhattan, which is, in my opinion, the best version of the NES. Of the Turtles. Obviously, you had the superior version of the 16-bit Hyperstone and Turtles in Time, but I always prefer this one because it's super enjoyable, because it's just an amazing title. Fun fact, this game was only released in North America and Japan. It was never released in Europe, believe it or not, so that's a fun trivia. So if you haven't played this game, highly recommend it. I might do a review in the future, so stay tuned on that. Okay, this is a bit of my opinion, of course. A lot of people seem to love the Tetris on the NES. Me, unfortunately, it's not the case. The reason why I don't like the version of the NES of Tetris, well, the music is just generic compared to the Game Boy version. Plus, when I almost lose to the pieces of the Tetris on the NES version, the music is too fast. It's just too uncomfortable for me. At least, that's why I always prefer the Game Boy version of Tetris. It's much superior to the NES version. That's why I always prefer Dr. Mario, in this case. It's much more fun on the NES version than the Game Boy version. That's why this is my favorite puzzle game on the NES, no matter what. It's just an amazing timeless classic, and I really enjoy this for what it is. And I really enjoy this, and practice a lot to be better at it. So I highly recommend Dr. Mario to play this game. It was made by R&D 1, and the composer is the same who made the same composed Metroid, Mr. Takana, who composed Metroid, Kid Icarus, this game, and the Mother series. Highly recommended to play Dr. Mario. Now I'm going to finish with this game, and then I will talk about a little more on the NES, since I almost missed something to tell it, so let's keep going. So, this is the game I will talk about a little bit. The Adventures of Bio Beanie, also known as Math City. A lot of people seem to dislike this game because of the difficulty, which is bare BS. Is a great game. Sure, it is difficult, but it's not impossible. You can easily beat it, but it takes a lot of patience. But if you want something more fun, the Japanese version will take care of that, but I always prefer the North American version because this is one of my favorite models of childhood, and it's still enjoyed to this day. I know sound like I'm crazy, that's because I am. Pure 100% hardcore NES player right there. So if you haven't played this game, take a look. But if you want something fun, the Japanese version is the way to go. Fun fact, there is a comic book of Bio Beanie. Check it out. It's on PDF online if you want to read about it as a result. I recommend this game. Really, it's just amazing. Give it a try. And of course, you can't talk about NES without Mike Tyson Punch-Out. I know some people might thinking, Punch-Out is a sport game. You told already you don't like sport games, right? Well, this is one of those exceptions. Punch-Out is an amazing, super fun game. You play as Little Mac, and the trainer, Dr. Lewis. And your goal is to win the championship and defeat the former champion Mike Tyson. And Mike Tyson was the champion at the time. Nowadays he's retired right now. But here's this amazing game. It's just gorgeous looking title. And I always prefer this game over Super Punch. Super Punch Out used to be my favorite game, but nowadays I always prefer the original because it's just an amazing, super fun game. And when I was a kid, I used to be the champion. I was extremely good at the game. I never lose. But unfortunately, as I age, I become less and less faster, less and less precise. So I'm nowhere near as good as I was as a kid. But I used to enjoy the heck out of this game. I highly recommend to pick up this game. It was made by R&D Free. R&D Free, normally they don't make games. They usually make hardware on consoles. But R&D Free was they made this game, Punch Out, Star Tropic 2, the Pilot Wing series, and Wave Racer. And then they move on to Nintendo 64, and that's about it. It was made by the team with Genyo Takeda, as a result. Check out the review and the story of giving a story. Link is down in the description about this game. It's just an amazing game. And finally, we can't end the NES with the classic Mario Brothers and Duck Hunt. Sadly, I don't have the Zapper gun anymore. Mine broke ages ago, and as you know it, I don't have the CRT. Well, I have one, but I rarely pull it out. And second, since I don't have a Zapper gun, I can't play Duck Hunt. But I can play Mario, and it's a classic for the NES. Every NES owner must play the original Mario, must, because it's the game that everyone started the franchise of Mario. In fact, I have my Amiibo 8-bit Mario at the 30th anniversary. If you can tell it, you know what I mean. As a result, it's a classic. No introduction. It was made by Shigeru Minamoto, produced by Shigeru Minamoto, and the writer was Tetsuya Tezuka, and the music was made by Koji Kondo. So there's no reason to explain more Mario. It's just a classic in my opinion. So aside from that, and now I'm going to talk about a little bit of hardware before I went to the game instead of gameplay. Obviously, I'm going to talk a little bit more of the hardware in a bit. One thing that I forgot to mention, my friends, is believe it or not, the NES uses a modified version of the MOS 6502 chip. The chip CPU is the Rico 2803. Which is also the sound chip. It's only one, and believe it or not, that chip was used before the NES was even released. It was released for Donkey Kong Country. It's Donkey Kong 3. I always confused with the Country series. The original Donkey Kong 3 uses the same CPU as the NES, the Rico 2803, and it uses the same sound effects. Mike Tyson, no, but the original Punch Out the arcade also uses the same chip as well. And there's the Versus Nintendo systems, which is the beefy version of the arcade of the NES. Check out the video of John Arcade explaining the video of the Versus Arcade. It's just a fascinating story, as well as his website. As well, there's also the Play Choice system, which is basically an NES, but you can put like 5 or 3 games and play them version. In fact, some of the games that released, such as Mario 3, was released on Play Choice before the NES version. As a result, anyways. And I know some people thinking, why not just use a clone system? Well, the trouble with the clone system, that's the beauty of the Rico, the Rico chip. The Rico has its own special chip. When you play it on the clone system, the sound usually sounds awful, or just doesn't sound right. For example, when Mario jumps, get the coins, they sound off. And my good old friend Gary from Rockstar Production, he pointed out that some of the clones sounds awful because the coin sounds at pitch high. That's because many of the companies didn't put the effort to make the sound correctly, to make the NOAA, the Rico 2803 correct, because they use the NOAC or Nintendo on a chip. The Nintendo on a chip, they may get the video sound, but they usually get hot or way too vibrant. But the biggest flaw on those clone systems or the Nintendo on a chip is the sound. They usually sound off, in my opinion. As a result, take in mind when you use clones. But there's also FPGA hardware such as the Analogue Nt and the AVS The AVS was the FPGA chip that can use hardware. You can play games on it. So not all the games work on the AVS, such as the Zelda games. But if you want to play all the games in high quality and high depth, you can modify the system with HDMI in it. Check out My Life in Gaming, who explain well detail about it, as well the Nintendo Classic Edition. They made an amazing job on the Nintendo, explaining the quality out of it. It's just an amazing documentary. As well, the Analogue Nt, which also went by My Life in Gaming, and one of my favorite shows, Game Sack. They explain about it as a result. One more thing, my friend, is if you want to play NES system, make sure that your games are clean, because I noticed when you put the game inside, pop it, and inside you think, oh, I'm gonna play the game. Well, guess what? Sometimes it's not gonna work. So you have to clean your games constantly. As a result, you have to use alcohol or an eraser, a traditional eraser. But you have to use the screws. You can clean it and make it work. But again, it's just the pin adapter that they aged poorly most of the year. And again, it's the design from the NES as a result. Anyway, so enough for talking. I'm gonna play the games. And now, finally, after several months using because in my old previous recordings, I record the video directly with no audio recording. I used to do it in the old days, but sadly my old recorder died, and as a result, I have to buy a much high record depth one connected to my laptop. I used to record directly on the camera, but it seems to get the signal too hot, and then I'm adjusting the things. But fortunately, my recording hype solved the problem. As a result, I was able to record it. I was using the camera and they had to record it separately so I can do the recording. And thanks to the program Audacity, I was able to repair it and get the audio right. As a result, it sounds clean and crystal beautiful on the NES. Obviously, it's in mono. As a result, I'll give you the clips right quick and enjoy them and see what it is. So let's go to the games. Okay, here's something that I forgot to mention in the video is that I'm gonna talk about is MMC, or Memory Mapper Control. What it does is allows you to have more control in memory, sprites, tile, code, everything. Several games use it, such as Metroid, Punch-Out, Mario 3, and etc. So here's more information you can tell that. I'm not gonna talk about too much about these. If you want to know more about the MMC, I recommend to check out the link down to the description. Also, I forgot to mention that Castlevania 3 works on NES original hardware. On some clones, it will crash because of the MMC file. Okay, enough of that. Back to the gameplay, my friends.
Adventures of Fire Billy.
I hope you enjoyed this video, my friend, and it was fantastic memory lane, sincerely, especially these three right here, because the packing game that I got on NES, my first that I got, and how I discovered how Metroid is. Even though you can tell the original Metroid is a little. Most people prefer Super Metroid, but I always love the original Metroid. But of course, my Super Metroid is my favorite game, of course, my favorite Metroid game of all time. And I always defend Street Fighter 5. Some people, a lot of them bash on the game very, very unfairly. This game is awesome and I recommend it a lot. 2Ds are my favorite. If you haven't played Street Fighter 2010, go for it. And have a good gameplay, not just AVS Nt did, in my opinion. No one sound like I'm defending the game, it's because I loved it and I'm going to defend it a lot. And of course, the good old Mario Bros. 3, an instant classic. I know some people thinking, what about the original? The original is the classic of the classics, but always the 3 get the crown of the crown. Anyway, so that's how the NES is. It's a classic, one of the best consoles of all time, and everyone's childhood console in the late 80s and early 90s. So most people are thinking, how do you get the NES system? Well, that's easy. Okay, there's one in. Just pick it up. It's really easy to find in NES these days. The tab loader, however, is tough to find. The tab loader is rare, expensive, and you're not gonna be able to find it. Well, you can find it, but you expect to pay like $100. Finding it on the real store is a little difficult. So if you find a tab loader in a thrift store or a garage sale, pick it up because they're getting rare. But if you want to play a clone system, you can. In fact, remember the retro that I used to have in my collection? Well, that's another alternative. Playing clones is a good thing. The only bad news is some games like Mario Bros. 3, they will have weird behavior, such as the sound of the coin sounds weird or sounds off. Because as I mentioned before, most clones don't emulate very well the sound from the Rico 2803, which is the main sound from the system as a result. It's specifically the sound department. As a result, you get weird behavior. And sometimes the color doesn't get right because, again, it's a clone. Also, you can play on the NES Classic Edition. Of course, the NES Classic Edition has some disadvantages, such as the sound effect doesn't sound right. It's just sound off. But again, emulation, of course. Of course, you can play emulators such as Dystopia, but unfortunately, again, audio and video is the main issue. As a result, most people prefer the original NES. As a result. And I know some people thinking there's better consoles, but no. The NES is still one of the best consoles I've ever. It's the class of the classics. And some people going to say the Atari is the classic, but the Atari emphasized on the console, and the manga was introduced the Internet to it, but that wasn't until the NES that really defined the 8-bit era, in my opinion. Before they moved to the 16-bit era with the Super Nintendo. As a result, Nintendo made a lot of things to make the console right and revitalize the industry. While Atari made it wrong, it made a lot of mistakes. Nintendo resurrected the industry. The industry wouldn't be the same without this guy right here. Anyways, so if you had a fun memory with the NES, help me in the comments and had a great time. Well, that's it for this video, and I hope you had a great time in your house, in gaming, and on as a result. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and take care, have a great time, and see you next time. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good day.